All right, I'm Betty Adams, and I'm here with, if you could introduce yourself.
My name is Dan, and I'm from Dan Exclaims.
Excellent. So okay, I have a YouTube channel because I need to promote my books. I'm primarily an author, and I found the best way to do that is to kind of mutually geek out with anybody else who wants to listen on YouTube. So what is Dan Exclaims?
So Dan Exclaims is a fictional bar that I've created where I talk about comics and anime and manga, and I just like to create a nice safe space where, people can come and geek out too.
Okay, so out of curiosity, why did you choose a bar? What's the aesthetic you're going for there?
So originally when I was trying to find my niche for my channel, I did the whole perusing and looking at everybody that was, they have like their own little quirks that make their channel special. Whether it's one of my close friends, Vocal Pineapple, who has his little popsicle sticks, whether it's, someone like a more a popular anime YouTuber like Nux Taku, who has his character that kind of freaks out and has like, an over the top kind of demeanor. And I was thinking, my roots, I started out, my whole career working in bars. I was a trivia guy. So I would be the guy that you'd go out on a Friday night or Wednesday night, whenever it be, and you'd play trivia, and I'd be the guy on the microphone talking to everybody, cracking jokes and telling questions. So when I was creating my YouTube channel, I was amongst friends, and they were like, "Hey, Dan, how you do your videos, it almost feels like you're having people come to a bar, just your music and your vibe." And then I was like, you know what? I think that's my thing. And if you see some of my earlier videos really doesn't kind of like establish the whole bar scene. It wasn't until the new year where I decided to actually create an animated character and have an entire bar made, where it actually kind of, formulated and formed in front of me this big grandiose idea that I actually created a bar that exists between dimensions, as I say.
Excellent. So I know it's kind of off topic, but I'm actually pretty curious about this. How did you go about actually creating that character? Did you get someone to do it for you? Did you do it yourself, or how?
Okay, so I commissioned my work from Fee Animation. My character itself, my mascot Dan, the robot bartender, he was a commission from Fee Animation, who was also a very popular YouTuber as well, with about 100,000 subscribers. And when I figured, if I was going to be making a bar, I needed to have somebody kind of be the host of said show. So when I thought about, my roots of when I was growing up, how much of an anime, how much it kind of molded me into the person that I am today, I thought about the TV show Fooly Cooly and how it had the robot Conti, and how it hit me so much that his, that character was just like, I think I know what direction I wanted to head. So I told Fee, I was like, "Hey Fee, I would like, if it was possible, if you can, combine bartender attire with the character, and we could try to make my own iteration of this character, of which that it would change and deviate from the original design and create my own little character as well." Now, the bar itself, the actual, like when you look and you see like Black Curse and Godzilla, the drinks and stuff like that, that's created by Oshi AMV. Oshi is a extremely talented kid that comes out from Poland, and his design, he works wonders with Blender and with After Effects. And when I came to him with the idea, I was like, because if you look at Oshi's work, his background, he usually only does like openings. He does like all those, and when you search for like an anime YouTuber, usually they have an Oshi opening, and that's how you know that these guys are actual, people within the community that are trying pretty hard, if they reach out to Oshi, or if Oshi even answers them in that kind of sense. So when I went to Oshi and I was like, "Look, man, I know you're trying to, branch out a little bit. So I have a really grandiose idea, and I was wondering if maybe you would be the right guy to tackle it." And I came up with the idea for the bar, and he was like, "You have just painted the most vivid picture in my head. I can absolutely do this. And the next thing I knew, he sent me a screenshot of Dan Exclaims. And then right in front of me, the bar that was in my head was suddenly in front of me, and it blew my mind. And yeah, so like I said, like I tell everybody, Dan Exclaims is a team effort. I have wonderful people from all across the globe helping me out create this wonderful bar, and it's only going to get better from here on out.
Interesting. Yeah, I have a very similar experience with my illustrator. We really seem to work together, even though there's still kind of a language barrier. She speaks pretty good English, but she's from Korea, and she just she turns my ideas into these amazing illustrations. And generally, she likes them so much that she puts them up on her portfolio.
Oh yeah.
So, okay, you kind of already mentioned this, but you said anime was a big part for you growing up. I didn't really get into anime till I was about 16, and I was helping out my cousins on a work project. We were building a new addition on their house, and they had all of the Gundam Wing series on VHS.
Okay.
And so that was kind of my introduction to anime, which of course led to manga and well, where I am today. So what was your starting point?
So my starting point, I would say, is actually around the same time, probably about. Actually, nah. What am I saying? I haven't. My older brother's about 5 years older than me, and I'm a ripe 30 now. So when we were, I would say, maybe like 8 and 13, maybe, or 9 and 14. One of his buddies would come to the house because we had a cable box in my mom's room, and we would go and we'd watch Dragon Ball Z. Now, I had no idea what this was. I didn't even know how to get to Cartoon Network at the time. And that was my first dose that hit me in the face when I was 8 years old of what anime was. And then I did karate. And then we would have like these dojo sleepovers, and people would bring their own their games and their movies and stuff like that, their VHS tapes. And one of the VHSs was Dragon Ball Z. And then another kid had a fighting game for regular PlayStation that was a Dragon Ball Z fighting game that was only in Japanese. So that I feel like Dragon Ball Z is a huge, just like a hit everybody in the face, like broad spectrum kind of anime. And then I would say when I was like 13 or so, that's when I started getting into like Gundam Wing, because that was on Toonami. And then when I was like, let's say like 2001, 2002, that's when Adult Swim started. And Adult Swim had its late night block, and its late night block had Outlaw Star, it had Inuyasha, it had Lupin the Third, and Cowboy Bebop. And that was like my eye-opening experience of, whoa, there's more out there than just Dragon Ball Z. There's so much more to this whole genre, and I just need to consume so much. And then when I was 13, I woke up at like 12 o'clock at night, maybe 1 o'clock in the morning, and I heard just guitar riffs just jamming out. And I was like, what is this beautiful music right now? And that was Fooly Cooly, FLCL. And that was what also introduced me to Japanese music, because it's still till this day some of the best music and soundtrack scoring to an anime till this day, the original Fooly Cooly. And it was the eye-opening experience to me to like avant-garde anime, where Cowboy Bebop was a spaghetti western in space, and Gundam Wing was a geopolitical lesson. And you had all these anime just had like Lupin the Third. I felt like I was the only 13-year-old kid that knew about Arsène Lupin. Like I was like, what is this? Like, it's teaching me so much about what is going on in what existed in the world that I'm not even learning about in school. And the next thing I know, I'm using the internet to look up like, oh, who's the gentleman thief? Oh, what's this? What is geopolitical? Geopolitics. I mean, I'm like, what is this? And I'm asking so many questions, and I feel like anime was the thing that helped facilitate the growth of my mind, and help me like branch out to start understanding film and cinema, because that's eventually what I went to college for. And I would learn to, appreciate the avant-garde. I would learn to appreciate just things that are kitsch. It was such an eye-opening. It was the thing that opened the floodgates to me giving black and white movies a try. Because as a kid, I was like, I'm not gonna watch anything that's not in color. But the next thing I know, I'm watching House on Haunted Hill with my dad. I'm watching, Citizen Kane. I'm watching, the beginnings of film itself.
Did you ever end up watching Casablanca?
Oh, of course. Casablanca. I actually didn't see Casablanca though until I was in my 20s. I saw
likewise. It's really a shock when you go back and how much of cinematic culture came from just Casablanca. It was real, and everybody knows about it, but I think so few people actually sit down and watch it these days.
And not a lot of people understand the type of film that it comes from to begin with, too. It's like people still, until this day, you ask them what Citizen Kane was about, and they were like, I have no idea what I just watched for 3 hours. And I completely agree with them to that. I was, when I remember in school being like, they were like, oh, so what's the film merits of Citizen Kane? And I remember just being like, I don't understand what just happened. I just watched 3 hours.
I was a hardcore science nerd, and I those questions hurt me to think about it. Like, it physically hurt my brain to analyze art.
Rosebud is the sled. It's like, what? No, I don't get it.
Once I was asked to analyze the illusion at the center of a poem, and I had no idea what I was doing, so I counted the number of rows, and I said something about the middle 2 rows. I got full points, but I still have no idea why.
Look, you got the grade. That's what matters. Yeah.
So, Kaiju number 8. Now, I have a fairly eclectic taste in manga, and a lot of it's pretty visual. I really, really liked Dragon Ball Z. And after analyzing it, I really like the manga that goes really light on the lines and the toner. And so I generally end up watching reading shonen fighting manga, because it's one of the bit more visually appealing to me. And and I just, of course, the first thing that attracted to me was that cover image on Viz of Kaiju number 8 powering up. It just really, I wanted to know more just from looking at that image. So I think I tapped in around chapter 8 or 10.
Okay.
And I decided it was worth doing weekly reviews for it around chapter 20, early 20s. So Kaiju number 8, just kind of tell me your thoughts.
So if you've seen my channel, so primarily I am too. I like shonen battle anime, shonen battle manga. My first taste of that was not even Dragon Ball Z, because Dragon Ball Z was just like, I would turn it on and then it would be the Cell Saga. I would turn it on and be the Frieza Saga. I turn it on, they were fighting Boo, and then all of a sudden they're fighting the androids again, and I had no idea what was going on. But the first battle anime that I actually followed was, and always will be, Yu Yu Hakusho. Because it's Yu Yu Hakusho was just it. First of all, the opening is arguably one of the most catchy openings to ever be created. You play that to anyone. If you like, I would always mess around at my job and I would play I would do like an anime opening or something like that, and just to see whose heads would perk up, and you'd be so surprised. But sorry, but Kaiju number 8, the reason why it drew me in and kind of it caught my eye, I actually caught Kaiju number 8 when it was on chapter 4. Viz had actually sent me like a push notification saying like, the newest Kaiju manga, check out Kaiju number 8. And I was like, I love Godzilla. I remember being a kid watching Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, or watching Godzilla versus Destroya, or watching just Godzilla. And of course, we won't talk about Godzilla 2000, but Godzilla 2000 was there in that equation. So when I saw that there was now a manga that was focusing around kaiju, now I'm pretty sure there has to be several different manga that also tackle the kaiju situation, considering you can consider Attack on Titan to be kaiju, considering they're 60 feet tall as well. 60 feet tall, 600 feet tall. So when Kaiju number 8 dropped, I was like, okay, let's check it out. I'm very picky when it comes to trying new stories. It took people about, I'd say I didn't start reading Demon Slayer until it was pretty much over. And I didn't start reading Chainsaw Man until it was pretty much over either. It took a lot of convincing for me to pick up those titles. But, I figured, Kaiju number 8 was starting out on Shonen Jump Plus, and Shonen Jump Plus is also one of my favorite manga distributors as well, because they make My Hero Academia Vigilantes, which in my opinion sometimes is better than the actual My Hero Academia manga. So I gave it a try and I fell in love with the story, mostly because for the first time ever, it felt like there was a shonen protagonist that wasn't a 12-year-old boy. It was a 32-year-old grown. Sorry, can I curse? But he was a grown.
Well, I'd rather you not, but
he was a grown butt man. he was a full grown man that just was so relatable. He was somebody that was stuck in a dead end job, and he was content with doing his job until this young upstart comes up and jumpstarts his entire drive once again. He was living in that 9-to-5 grind of watching everybody else succeed, and he was like, it's just not my place to succeed. I don't care. And then all of a sudden before he's even given the means to try to take the test to become an officer for the self-defense force, he comes to the realization that he wants to do it again and give it the good old college try again. And that alone drew me in, because it felt like I was watching me on a page. And I'm like, oh my God, this is me trying to break into film, not breaking into film and just going to work at a GameStop, and then all of a sudden making a YouTube channel and making it for myself. And it was just such a slap in the face moment, where it was like, I consider like Vocal Pineapple to be my Reno, because he's a more successful YouTuber that told me, being the old head, to be like, dude, like, you have what it takes. You have the voice, you have the gumption, you have the charisma to be a YouTuber. You need to do it. And the next thing I know, the pieces started falling into place. And I created Dan Exclaims, with the help of several other people. And that's where Kafka is as well. Kafka isn't where he is right now without the help of 5 or 6 different people to get him there, whether it's the people at the disposal unit telling and pushing him to, chase his goals once again, whether it's Mina on the back burner trying to, not be too outward about it, but at the same time trying to reinforce his goals and her goals at the same time. And Reno. And I absolutely love Reno because he's the character that is the main inspiration. They're role models for one another, but at the same time, like, Kafka never wants to let those kids down, as much as I never want to let down the younger generation that looks up to me as well, because I feel like at a certain point you kind of I see that a lot of my audience is that 18 to 24 demographic. And they look at me like one of the guys, Herovation, who's another anime YouTuber. He calls me his uncle because I came at him with Avatar: The Last Airbender euphemism from Uncle Iroh. So he started calling me Uncle Iroh. So I call him nephew every time I see him now. And it's like, hey, he's only a couple of years younger than me, but I like to be that role model for people. I like to be the one that, will tell them I'll look out for you kind of thing. And that's what drew me to Kafka and helped me relate to him more than the average shonen protagonist, besides the fact that, every shonen protagonist out there is between the age of, 12, or if you're a gon, it's like 12 to 20 because of Koichi from My Hero Academia Vigilantes. So seeing Kafka as a 32-year-old man, it opened my eyes completely. I was like, oh my God, this is telling everybody that is in their 30s that loved manga that we see you, and here's your protagonist.
Yeah, I kind of saw it as a different thing. I think they were just trying to tell a good story, and that the really truly great stories, they come out of someone just trying their best to tell a good technical story. And that Kafka being a 32-year-old was just them trying to tell the truth of what they saw in the world. It didn't feel like a deliberate choice to appeal to a demographic to me. It was just they were telling the story of the world as they saw it, and that's how it happened to fall out.
Okay.
So, I've just got some general questions that I just feel like I need to talk to somebody about these, somebody who appreciates Kaiju number 8. And my main geek fallback, so I've got like 3 people I can discuss this stuff with, and they're either having they're younger than me, and they're all hitting those points, marriage, family, things, and none of them have had a chance to catch up on it yet. So I've been pretty desperate. So okay, so one of the things that was very interesting that I noticed in your videos, you were plumping for Hoshina as the suspicious character. And that kind of surprised me, and because I had not seen it from that angle at all.
So one of the main reasons why I thought that Hoshina was going to be the main instigator was because of the initial reason why he let Kafka into the defense force. He thought that there was something to him, because I think it was like in the early chapters, maybe like chapter 12 or maybe even chapter 10, when they're taking the entrance exam, there was that big Kaiju reading that appeared and then disappeared, and they just chalked it up to Kaiju number 9 appearing, when really it was Kaiju number 8 that blew off all the scales. So he kept him around because he was suspicious of him. Now, my point of view has changed on that dramatically, because Hoshina now looks at him like he's a rival. He's a competitor in this game now. And that's actually when he sees Kafka, you know, as quote unquote, as he would say, burning the midnight oil and trying so hard to be a better soldier, that takes away the suspicion that he initially had from chapter, 13 or 14, when he's being inducted to the defense force. He says that, he's going to be on my squad as, a temporary, I forgot exactly the word they used for him, but he was keeping there just to keep a closer eye on him because he didn't trust him to a degree. Now, that makes me think this is a theory that I'm working in my head, that the defense force already knows that humans can turn into kaiju and vice versa. So there's probably people that know that this is capable, but they haven't let like lower people know about this whole thing going on. So that's why I think Hoshina might have his suspicions, because the sheer vast amount of kaiju out there that we don't know could make him into more of a suspicious character. But now that Kafka was able to alleviate that suspicion from Hoshina, that's why the sting hurts so much more for him in the most recent chapter, and chapter 32, because that suspicion was totally gone. And he even says that. He goes, I was just so taken aback by him that I completely lost my suspicion of him because he just swooned me. And that's what got me about Hoshina, because in the beginning I was like, okay, this dude is suspicious. This guy he's going to find out who Kafka is, and he's going to try to do something. But the next thing you know, they have a conversation of they're going to be competitors, and they're going to work to be at Mina's side, and they're both going to give it their all. And the next thing you know, he goes from being Kafka's Kafka's captain to being his rival. Like, Reno doesn't even, I wouldn't even put Reno and Kafka on the same level as rivals anymore. They're kind of equals, while Hoshina and Kafka are straight up rivals. They are trying to one up each other at every turn. Like,
okay, put a pin in that thought, because something you said a little bit back just really sent up a red flag in my brain, something that I hadn't realized before. Did you notice? You said they assumed that the 9.8 was number 9 when it was really number 8. Yes. And they showed the screen they were looking at. There was the 6.4, which was the Hanju with the laser blast uni organ.
Yeah, that's the one that comes back to life, right?
There was the 9.H that was Kafka.
There was
no other large reading.
And that's the thing, though. After the fact, they say they alleviate the suspicion off Kaiju number 8, Kikoru and Reno, by saying it was the one that showed up.
Number 9 was still on the field at that point. They should have been sensing him. Where was his reading?
Well, he masks himself.
Yeah.
He masks himself. That's what he did. Remember during the
Yeah, that was kind of an all and nothing situation where nothing got in or out. But so if he had his masking fields in effect, how did they get either number 8s or the
Well,
Hanjus?
because he was masking himself. He wasn't masking everybody else at the time.
Point.
Yeah. He was masking himself and not everybody else. That's why you were able to pick up the 6, and that's why you were able to pick up the 9.8, because he was masking himself. So then everybody goes, okay, is Kaiju number 9 the 9.8? But he really wasn't. It was Kaiju number 8.
Okay, interesting. So let me throw a theory at you, because there was and is someone I had suspicions of knowing more than they let on, and that was actually Reno himself.
I've actually spoken to a couple of my friends about this that actually think Reno is a kaiju as well.
I mean, he was there, and the one line that really kind of established it as a suspicion is on the training ground when Reno tells Kafka he's going to stick by him. Kafka just smiles and goes, "I guess that's just how you're wired, kid." And there's the first level of he was getting that wrong, being that he was actually the inspiration for Reno. But these writers are really good at putting at least three levels into any interaction.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right.
And so that was the one that kind of really solidified the suspicion for me, because Reno was there at and before every major event.
I mean, yeah, the minute that Reno shows up,
yeah,
you know, the incident happens within the same week. Reno shows up to do his internship with the disposal unit, and then halfway through that week, the Yoju attacks. And my biggest suspicion hasn't been Reno, but my biggest suspicion has been, is the kaiju inside of Kafka still sentient? Because that thing, when it first popped up in front of him and was like, "Hey, I found you." That was the big, he pops up in front of him and goes, "I found you." So that tells me that, one, there's a hierarchy of kaiju. They're independent of thought. They're not a hive mind. And there is somebody that specifically looked out for Kafka, which tells me was it Reno that told the whatever kaiju that this is the guy that we need, kind of thing. You need somebody who's absolutely pure-hearted, because one of my theories that I've said in past videos is that the possibility of kaiju society existing, because now that we've seen that all of these, like, you know, there's some kaiju that are completely sentient and some that are completely obedient, like the dragoons. So I think that there might be the kaiju that are constantly attacking the humans, and the kaiju that are like, look, we're just trying to live and not be killed, because they're capturing us and turning us into weapons. So we need to either figure out how to work with the humans or just cut ourselves off completely from them. And the one thing that we've seen is that they work in symbiosis with each other. That's what the suits are. The suits are technically kaiju technology, and you're putting someone in that suit and giving them kaiju abilities, which tells me that eventually you're going to have like a Bleach situation happen as well, where people draw out enough power and they're going to turn into some crazy monsters.
That's definitely a possibility. Okay, here's another question. Going back to the 0%, and the manga really lampshaded that, with Hoshina being really surprised, saying that he'd never seen that before. Not that it never happened, but that he'd never seen it. So suggesting it's either really rare or it just doesn't happen. One of the things I've seen a lot of discussions assuming is that whatever situation Kaiju number 8 Kafka is in right now was the intended outcome. But this manga puts a lot of focus on failure and not meeting your initial goals. And it's got me wondering if that wasn't the case. However, whatever situation Kafka is in was not the intended end goal, but his extreme incompatibility with all things kaiju, as represented by his 0% combat power, essentially acted as an immunization. Like those mutations that mean you can't get certain viruses because your cells lack the doors that allow them to take them over. And that the intention was to have the Kaiju number 8 consciousness dominant. But Kaiju number 9 but it failed because of Kafka's inherent immunity to all things kaiju. Because they've really set this up as kaiju being a natural part of the world.
Yes.
Like just like any old natural disaster.
Yes.
Given that, and if there is a parasite that has the possibility to take over a creature's body, which there are in real life, there's always a certain portion of the population that's going to be immune due to some mutation or the other.
You know, I never thought of it that way. It's a very scientific way to look at things. I thought of it as, since the suit didn't work because he was already a kaiju. Like I thought of it like a 00 kind of thing, where a kaiju puts on a kaiju suit and it doesn't work because
I thought about that, but you have that theory has the problem that it did start working.
What my theory was, how he drew out 1% was because he knows how to revert back to his humanoid form. So that, like, if you remember, he's able to just turn into his kaiju self. And when he turns into his kaiju self, he just turns into his kaiju self. But if you saw in the most recent chapter, he exists under it. Under Kaiju number 8, he is there. So it's more like a protective coating.
The damage from his kaiju body does not translate to his human body.
Exactly. Well, yes, it does. Because if you saw that when he gets hurt, he's in casts. So,
interestingly enough, though, each and every time he's in a cast, he had taken damage before he transformed.
That's right. When he ruins his legs, he's wearing the suit.
Yes.
So, and then when he transforms in 32,
the regenerative abilities of the body do not help him now. And you saw it peeling back from his face when you confronted him. But remember the sonic attack. His entire face split apart all the way to the back of his neck. There was zero room for a human skull where it should have been when he did that.
So do we think that it's like using up the power and then turning back into a human kind of thing?
I'm thinking it's a pocket dimension kind of thing. The human body goes somewhere because Hoshina paired off at 5 different limbs. Between 3 and 5, I couldn't get an exact count. And yet Kafka came back with all of his limbs intact. Every time he's seen injured, it's all injuries compatible with what happened before he transforms. The only physical effect that I've seen from the damage he takes as a kaiju is exhaustion. Energy depletion. Basically.
And that's, because he depletes, he's completely exhausted at the end of 32 and he can't move. And then that's when he starts gradually turning back into a human again because he overexerts all of his energy. So the more energy, people would say, I guess with that logic, the more energy he has, the more he turns into a kaiju.
Possibly. And the other
it is a full genetic mutation. It is. It's with the way when he first turned into a kaiju, like, remember, he couldn't even use the regular, he couldn't he didn't excrete normally.
Yeah.
So
it really looks to me, when I was talking about before, I called it the 2-body problem. It really does look like there are 2 completely separate bodies inhabiting the same point in space. So.
Okay. All right. See, I would lean more towards, I think it's a shape-shifting that instead of it going to like a pocket dimension or something like that, it would be the exertional energy. The more energy he gives off, the more he turns into a kaiju, kind of like the suit. The suits, when somebody taps too much into the suit for a prolonged amount of time, it triggers that overheat. So I think of it because, like, they take the kaiju DNA and they have been splicing it with animals and they've been splicing it with like technology, because there's like that tiger is definitely a tiger that's been spliced with kaiju DNA.
Really? Is it that was not my running theory, but I'm a scientist in real life. I'm an ecologist, so my theories are all heavily influenced by that. I think it's a liger.
It's a liger.
A tiger is an individual solo hunting cat. They have no social ability whatsoever, meaning they're impossible to train to any level of independence.
Okay.
Any trained tiger has to be constantly monitored. I've worked at big cat sanctuaries at times. However, a lion and a tiger does not get that big. The biggest Siberian tiger doesn't get anywhere near that size. However, a lion is trainable to a certain level of independent cooperation with their trainer because they have that base genetic social interaction. And when you make a liger, one with a mom is a lion, one's a mom is a tiger. My dyslexia kicks in. Anyway, you have a very large, that's where you get that size and that sort of body shape that's more of a rectangle than the traditional svelte cat shape.
Okay.
So I looked at it and my brain immediately plumped for... it actually took me like 5 chapters to decide whether it was actually a real tiger or just a metaphorical manifestation of Mina's spirit. Because some manga do go that way.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Once I decided it was an actual physical animal, I figured, okay, it could be a liger. The reason we don't have commonly bred liger bloodlines is that it's kind of a useless animal. There's no practical purpose for it.
It can't reproduce, and it's...
Well, no, they can't. The ligers can. Lions and tigers.
Am I thinking donkeys can't reproduce, maybe? I'm thinking of
mules?
Mules?
Some mules can.
Yeah,
some mules can. But it's very, very rare. But
Okay.
lions and tigers are actually genetically close enough that... Okay, this is where my dyslexia kicks in. When the mom is the lion and the dad is the tiger, but I might have get that result. You do get fertile offspring. That's why you can have lion, tiger, leopard, jaguar hybrids.
Okay, so while that is so that is a extreme scientific way of going about it, and I'm looking at the tiger like right now, and I could totally see where you mean because I'm looking also at a liger. And I could see the markings maybe kind of being that a little bit. But now my point of view and my head, the way I go is I am extremely based in literature. And if I believe you were in my premiere when I said I think that it's because culture, like the white tiger in Asian culture, whether it's mostly the Chinese culture or maybe Japanese culture, I knew it as Byakko, the Japanese white tiger, who is presented as he's known as the King of Kings, essentially. So he's supposed to be the strongest out of the sacred beasts. And I thought of it as that because the sacred beasts are very, very, very prevalent in that culture, and they have been existent across all types of anime.
I heard that, and it immediately paused a question in my mind from the literature perspective. Could you pronounce the creator's name for me, please?
It's Naoya Matsumoto.
Okay, so Matsumoto is clearly an excellent writer.
Oh, yes.
And really understands the fundamentals of literature very well. And I have yet to see a scene that was not doing at least 3 things, or any element. Chekhov's gun is loaded with multiple shots.
Oh my God! Yes, absolutely. If you see it in Act 1, it's in Act 2.
I can totally see your theory being just perfectly sound, and that we're going to see the other 3 divine beasts as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Bako is not just a pet. Bako is fundamentally a working animal, a specialist working animal. He was brought in to be a mobile tripod because Mina is both a cannon and needs high mobility. He serves kind of a mirror use of Hoshina. He allows her to brace herself because one thing that I really, really, really admire about this series, they pay attention to the laws of physics as much as possible.
Oh yeah.
Even when they have to give a hand-wavy explanation, they do at least give an explanation.
They don't try to exactly.
And the reason that Bako is necessary, as well as a beautiful cultural and historical visual, is that Mina her big gun has a distinct recoil, and she can only handle it herself if she has the time to get into a proper stance. And in a running combat, she does not have that time. So the risk and cost of maintaining a liger or kaiju-influenced tiger is that it's fast enough to get behind her. It's intelligent enough to do it, and it's cooperative enough to do it.
Yes.
So Bako is a very, very functional addition to the 3rd division.
Yes.
What functional addition to the other divisions do you see the other sacred beasts being?
So now this is also like me just pulling this. I'm trying to remember just off the top of my head. I believe it's Genbu is the black turtle. And I think the Crimson Sparrow is Suzaku, and the Azure Dragon is Siryu. So I would expect them to be rooted in what those beasts kind of represent. Byakko is arguably the most, aloof of all of them, of all the beasts. He's also the one that, he would only protect the Emperor when the Emperor would appear, with the Jade Emperor. So I think that the one that flies above all will be like the more aerial core. I think that it's possible that Suzaku, the Azure Dragon, could possibly be with the maritime base if Genbu isn't there, because he's a turtle, but he's a tortoise, so he's actually land based. So I would think Suzaku would probably actually be more water based because he's the Azure Dragon. So I think maybe he could actually be the beast that guards Kikoru's dad. So I think we're probably going to see more of these dragons. I don't particularly know. I probably have to still get a little bit more context clues for me to put 2 and 2 together. I didn't really come to that realization that they are doing the sacred beasts until I kind of looked at the white tiger, and I was like, this thing is very reminiscent of from Korean, Vietnamese. He looks like how they draw him in most iterations. So while I think we have to look at those other 3 and see where they will relate to the most, and then we can figure out where within what division they might be. If there's only 4 divisions, or if there's 5 divisions, or as someone said in my comments that there could be like a 0 division where like people are sketchy, you could have the first 4 divisions have their leader, and the leader of Division 3 is Mina. You can have the leader of division, whoever it might be have the Sparrow and so on and so forth. And the 5th one is Kirin, I believe Kirin is like the god of lightning, or no, that's Raijin. I'm trying to remember. I think it's like Kirin's like I think he's a unicorn. I don't know, but I think like that could possibly be like the main boss. I feel like they're really trying to root in mythology with, and like take, how like people like to take cryptozoology.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that cryptozoology aspect to it is also like the mythology aspect to kaiju. Like we can take a normal animal, give them kaiju DNA, and create this, monster animal that we can give sentience and teach it to be allies. And the strongest of them, or the strongest of those animals, they name after the sacred beasts.
Okay.
The book from author Betty Adams, Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, is a humorous look at human behavior through the eyes of aliens. This book is arranged in separate reports or essays, documenting the experiences with humanity through the lens of the aliens who have to interact with them. This anthology of short stories and vignettes from alien points of view highlights some of humanity's quirks we can all relate to. Author Betty Adams captures how strange and interesting humans can really be. This is a fun collection of stories you will really get a kick out of. Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, from author Betty Adams. Order your copy right now on Amazon.